You are officially the first politician I've ever spoken to that's had to reschedule because they had a baseball game to play.
First of all, honored.
Um, I kind of just want to, dive into this
Yeah,
because, we reached out to you. I reached out to you because the town hall, that video just blew up. I mean, to hear Joni Ernst say, like, we're all gonna die, and
yeah,
to double down on it, bringing up like the tooth fairy while
right.
walking in a funeral or not funeral, a cemetery. Um, and now you're here.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of how it works.
So
No, so I mean, here's the crazy thing is, so we were on the road with my baseball team on Thursday, last Thursday, not last night, but last Thursday in Kansas City. And on the drive back, I had a long call with somebody about like, am I going to do this? If am I not like type of if I'm going to run for U.S. Senate or not? And then this hit on Friday morning, that town hall. And as it was blowing up on social media, I was going into a funeral for a family friend who is a longtime Democratic activist. And Senator Harkin, whose seat this used to be, was in attendance of that funeral as well. And so when you're at a funeral and you're thinking about life and all these things and the work that this gentleman who passed and we were celebrating his life, things just, there was this, it almost felt like a calling. And then the next day when she doubled down on it in that just disrespectful apology, that's when I was like game on. And so we launched on Monday. It was kind of a whirlwind, and I mean, if I had more time, there's a thousand things I would have done differently. But we did what I think so much about modern politics is matching the moment, and I think we did a really good job of doing that.
yeah. And, how has the response been since, you announced that you were running?
I mean, it's been phenomenal, both nationally and in the state. In the state, so much of my previous campaigns, my two congressional campaigns, were very grassroots. We bought a used Winnebago RV to get out there to the people. We plan on doing that again, so we're going to be fundraising. If folks go to scholtenforiowa.com, we can always use a buck. The but nationally, we've in day two. So we launched on Monday. Day two, they shifted the ratings from solid Republican to likely Republican, and now Cook, I think, just this morning did the same thing, and they said because there's a credible candidate in ourselves, if since we're in the race, that's why this shift happened, and so I'm excited because I think there's so much opportunity in 2026 for Democrats across the country, but in Iowa, I think it's just ripe for an upset.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I've listened to your interviews over the past few days and what you've been talking about. And you've mentioned you're really, on the ground you're at your baseball games and you're talking to these young men who
Yeah,
are, really impressionable. And
absolutely.
um, you know, I think that that's a demographic that has been really swaying right recently. Uh,
Exactly. It's interesting. So last summer, for folks who may not know, I got called to pitch for an emergency start for our local minor league baseball team. It's an independent team out of Sioux City. I played with them 17 years ago, and I was the oldest person in league history to get a win. I'm the only state legislature to play actively professional baseball at the same time while serving. Um, but it was a great opportunity for me to talk to these young men. And it's interesting because the my teammates now are far more accepting of I would say left-leaning policies than they were probably 17 years ago, but they're more likely to vote Republican. And just because of what's on their social media feeds, the only thing that they're seeing. And so that's the interesting thing to me is I listen to them every single day. I talk to them like, what interests you? We don't always talk politics because I mean, we mostly don't talk politics, but they will come up to me and ask me stuff all the time. And so it's just really interesting. But the thing that I really get from it is I don't have to hire some consultant to do a focus group. I talk to these guys like, hey, what do you think about this? What are your thoughts about this? And I find ways to phrase things to make them interested in somewhat of going into our coalition. And I think that's one thing that my previous campaigns have been so successful with. We've outperformed the top of the ticket in every single race I've ran in 2018, which is going to be similar in 2026, we think. I took a race that Trump won by 27, a district Trump won by 27, and we moved the needle 24 points.
Yeah. What do you think, talking to these young men and, just with Iowans or, voters in general, what are some of these frustrations that you're hearing from voters, from people you're talking to, um, that you think that you can bring to the table?
Yeah, people are frustrated with the status quo, whether it's economically or politically. And so people are looking for something different. We have a GoFundMe healthcare system. We have a JBS food system and we have a Dollar General economy. All of those things are broken and they're not working for everyone. So for us, I've been running on the same thing since 2017, and it's fight for universal healthcare, the economy. Or, I'm sorry, fix the economy so it works for everybody, and then secure a democracy from the special interests and billionaires that are dictating it.
And you're really outspoken about this stuff. I saw you have a Substack. Am I right? Is like
Right.
ways you're getting screwed? Is that
You're you're probably getting scred.
you're
So
probably getting
so
screwed?
it's inclusive because not everyone is, but you probably are.
And I think that's really important because, a lot of this appeal that we have um, for people going towards the right is that they really said what the left wasn't saying, and they really
Right.
called out bullshit. Sorry,
Yeah.
excuse
No.
me.
Oh, come on. I'm a baseball player.
And so when I was going through your Substack, I was like, "Oh, this is really nice." You're like, "This is how we're getting screwed. This is what's going
Right.
on."
Well, what I see is what I saw an opportunity, especially the way media works now, are the national folks who get funded by sponsors and all that stuff. So they're not going to call out these huge corporations that are hurting everyday people. I also see that smaller like newspapers and things are not what they used to be, and so we're in a weird time. So that's part of the reason why I wanted to do this newsletter is to highlight the things that working class people should be talking about more and more. And so much of politics are just about a couple issues that a lot of them, the right wants to talk about punch down stuff, and then we talk about other stuff, and there's all this stuff in the middle that impacts people every single day. And I just wanted to make sure that was at the forefront. And so, I'm an old school prairie populist. The Paul Wellstones, the Tom Harkins, we have a great congressman who passed away named Berkeley Bedell, who in the 70s and 80s would win these very conservative areas at 60%. And he had a reelection poster from the early 80s that said, "The 1% controls your government. Does the 99% have a chance? How do we save our democracy?" And I mean, that's as relevant today as it ever has been.
Yeah. I want to ask you, you have baseball on one hand and you have, running for Senate on the other.
Yeah.
How is that going to work? What's going on with
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, so I think the last 2 days is a perfect example. So I've had interviews like this where you have to shift them around a little bit for bus scheduling and all that. Once we get the mechanics of the campaign going, because this is still week one, it's going to be a lot of fundraising during the day and baseball at night. We have off days, usually on Mondays, that I'll get out there to Iowans and go out there. But the main focus right now until the season's over is raising money so we can get Winnebago RV, Sioux City Sioux 2.0, and get out there. And we're going to have a massive 99 county tour come this fall. And it's very much a grassroots campaign. That's just we look at how we can overperform and how we can win people back. So in Iowa, just a Democratic wave is not going to get us a victory. We have to have something beyond that. And my kind of campaign where we go out and talk to people and lift up other people's voices and tap into what's impacting them. Like my what I talk about fight, fix, and secure, that wasn't some consultant telling me what to do. That was me going to town halls, driving from town to town to town in 2017, asking people their impact. Because at that time, I mean, I was running for Congress in the second most agriculture producing district in the country, and farmers were struggling. They had 5 consecutive years of low commodity prices, and the number one thing they brought up to me was having to work an off the farm job, or their spouse having to work an off the farm job, or a second job, or a third job just to pay for healthcare.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the topic of healthcare is obviously going to be fresh on their minds right now.
Exactly. So, so with this Medicaid bill or the cuts, like not only will it kick people off health insurance, it's going to devastate rural hospitals, it's going to devastate rural nursing homes, and then that's going to have a huge impact on the urban areas that are going to have to rely more and more. But like we're having this constant consolidation. Even in Sioux City alone, my whole life we've had two hospitals, and in the past week they're merging. And so, what does that mean for a community like ours, like that? Our whole life we've had two, and now here we go to just one. And then look at the impact of if these Medicaid cuts go through, then all the surrounding areas, the local hospitals, they're going to get hurt, and then more and more people are going to have to use that one hospital in Sioux City.
Yeah. I think it's a challenge, reaching these people who are either consistently or have been recently voting red.
Right.
How do you feel that you can, say, hey, like this is what I want to give you. This is, I don't want to cut Medicaid. I don't want to cut Medicare.
Right. I mean, there's I think there's two parts to that question. One is we talk to everybody and welcome everybody into our coalition. And I mean, that's what moved the needle 24 points back in 2018. And so we are out there with the same message, whether we're in Sioux City or at a farm in Worth County. But the other thing is what I learned from my state house races is how can we organize? And so I like to uh, put an emphasis on the B's and the S's, the barbers, the bartenders, the baristas, the servers, and the stylists. You talk to those folks who are mostly Democrats or Democrat leaning, then they talk to their friends. And that's how you get grassroots campaigns, things like that. And so it's not so much trying to get Republicans to vote Democrat, it's trying to get people engaged who are not engaged.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, is there anything maybe we haven't hit on that you want to talk about?
Well, it's it's been such an interesting week and an interesting time, and it's one thing that I think is really funny. I mean, it's funny, but like we also have to take it with a grain of salt, knowing how impactful these cuts are going to be. But in Iowa, like you're hearing Joni Ernst being referred to as Joni Hearst a lot. And their Ray Gun has a shirt that has the Iowa logo and changes the name to "We're all gonna die." So like there is this movement happening right now in Iowa, and I'm happy that our campaign is really matching that moment. But I would just tell folks expect something special in 2026 in Iowa.
I'm hoping Joni Hearst sticks.
Exactly, exactly.
JD,
So
thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. I really appreciate it.
yeah.
Do you have a game today?
We do. So, in an hour and 15 minutes, we have the bus to the field. We'll have batting practice. We'll have, yeah. So, yeah, it's
Okay.
interesting.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
I briefly worked for the Mets. I worked at
Oh,
SNY over in New York. I wasn't
yeah.
like working with the team, but I was over in the broadcast studio.
Yeah.
How do you feel? What are your teams? Who's your
Oh,
pitcher? What's
so my politics and my baseball fandom is the same. I like small market teams. So I'm a Minnesota Twin fan.
okay?
Yeah. So, but it's the past few years, I've kind of just cheered for my friends who've made it. So shout out to Tony Watson, who 10-year big leaguer, he's now retired, unfortunately. So, But yeah, it's weird to be the age where all my friends are retired and then I'm still just throwing it. So
Good for you, though.
thank you. I appreciate it.